Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Soul Land 3 Legend of the Dragon King Part 74 based on novel. So let's start. The difference between spirit and thousand refining was as great as night and day, much like the power of a one-word battle armor versus a two words. Once spirit refined, the metal sublimated to another level. It was for this reason that 5th rank blacksmiths were rarer and no weaker mecha craftsmen or designers of the same rank. To break through the 5th rank, Tang Wulin only needed to successfully spirit refine once. This was considered a major milestone for any blacksmith. 3 years ago, Mang Qian had attempted this, and though he succeeded, it came with a price. Unknown to Tang Wulin, the man had sustained several injuries as a result and could not endure more advanced forging requests from then on. Mu Chen would never have permitted Tang Wulin to spirit refine if he were present. For this process, the demands placed on the blacksmith's mind were immense. It could be dangerous for a soul master at Tang Wulin's level. Fortunately, Tang Wulin was no ordinary blacksmith. Compared to his peers, his spiritual power towered over the rest at over 200 points. With this, he could keep a clear mind as he poured his heart and soul into forging. Immersed in his connection with the heavy silver, he could feel its joy and timidness. It was afraid of taking the next step, but Tang Wulin coaxed it along. One step to the heavens. 10,000 refinements of life. The 10,000 refinements of life was to continuously connect with the metal. Each tap preserved the spirit of the metal, pouring soul power into it to obtain life. Cultivating intelligence in metal was similar to that of soul beast. For soul beasts, there was a slight difference in intelligence between a 10-year soul beast and a normal animal. However, a soul beast's intelligence skyrocketed once it reached the 1,000-year level until breaching the 10,000-year mark. At that point, its intelligence rivaled a human's. From there, it accumulated wisdom until it reached the 10,000-year level where it was no less intelligent than a human. Higher-leveled soul beasts weren't stronger just because of their energy growing, but also due to their increase in intellect. Metal was no different. The greater its spirit, the closer the metal was to obtaining its own ego and changing on a fundamental level. Oddly, under Tang Wulin's gentle taps, the heavy silver trembled. Each tap coaxed a burst of light, a pattern of a whirling cloud pushing its way into existence on the metal surface. As its bulk shrunk, the silver grew brighter and brighter. This signified a successful spiritual connection between Tang Wulin and the heavy silver, hinting at a smooth process until the end. Now it was a matter of maintaining this connection and leading the heavy silver to transform and complete its refinement. Tang Wulin drove his soul power into the heavy silver, using his blue-silver grass as the bridge. Although he relied on the mysterious heaven method to restore as much of the lost soul power as possible, the chunk of heavy silver was a bottomless pit. This was a dire problem. I have to succeed. Everyone's acceptance depends on me. I have no choice but to succeed. 3 years of body tempering and experience gaining. The fruits of his labor were now revealed. He willed every ounce of strength and skill hidden in the nooks of his body to the surface. Since 2 years prior, he'd been able to first-grade 1,000 refine. Owing to his diligence, Tang Wulin had not fooled around the slightest, striving to improve his foundation. Now he stood at the apex of the 4th rank. He only lacked the soul power necessary to take the next step forward. Otherwise, he would have long since attempted to spirit refine. With his full strength unveiled, every strike of his hammers transformed the heavy silver more than before. His connection with the metal thrust him to new heights. He would likely succeed if this continued on. What was most frightening about spirit refining was the possibility of a premature disconnection. Should this happen, the metal lost its spirit, turning it into its normal, inert counterpart. This was why spirit refinement was expensive to attempt. Countless blacksmiths failed at this step and never crossed into the next realm. Apart from talent and skill, money was a limiting reagent. Blacksmiths backed by large clans had better chances than the rest. They could succeed through brute force of resources. Tang Wulin's circling speed accelerated. Had he known Ghost Shadow perplexing track, the process would have gone even smoother. Unfortunately, he had been forced to spend his contribution points on spirit items instead of Tang sect secret arts. As the silver light flourished and the heavy silver shrunk, Tang Wulin's hammers resonated with the lump of silver and emitted a similar hue of light. Crimson veins crawled over the surface of his hammers, the mark of his blood sacrifice. These two hammers had always accompanied him in the last few years, his go-to tools for his innumerable first-grade 1,000 refined pieces. After he had performed the blood sacrifice, he fueled the hammer's growth, to the point where they were now first-grade 1,000 refined. The moment the hammers struck the heavy silver simultaneously, a strange connection opened between them. Under careful inspection, one would notice the shrinking in size of Tang Wulin's hammers. They also grew smaller and brighter with each strike. His soul power consumption was too high. 10 minutes had passed and he was approaching his limits. The second he ran out, his connection with the heavy silver would be broken. Despite the smooth start, the connection was fragile, and could break at any moment. Once the spirit refining failed, this chunk of heavy silver would become useless and its spirit would attempt to devour the blacksmith in its fury. Even 4-ring blacksmiths would need a long time to recover from the backlash, not to mention Tang Wulin, who had 2 rings. Perhaps he would never be able to recover from such a setback. What can I do? My soul power is almost depleted, but I'm not done yet. The heavy silver has a speck of life in it now. However, I still need to feed it more energy. I can't stop. No matter what, I can't stop. Tightening his resolve, Tang Wulin's next move astonished everyone. He held both hammers in his left hand, grabbing the ingot with the one that's free. Not once did the pounding stop. As his skin met with the heavy silver, thick white smoke released from the metal surface, loud sizzles permeating the air. His hand convulsed from the sharp tendrils of pain, the temperature enough to melt off a person's hand. But Tang Wulin was spared of this fate. Besides a few wisps of smoke rising from his palm, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. He called back his blue-silver grass in favor of his golden soul ring, gold scales appearing over his arm. Determined, Tang Wulin suppressed the daggers of pain stabbing into his body, beads of sweat dripping down his forehead as ignored wave after wave of exhaustion, his soul power depleting by the second. He held the connection, though blood essence replaced soul power as the bridge. Tang Wulin shouted with resolve. His clothes burst into shreds, revealing the lean and rugged body, the golden scales snaking across his toned torso and arm. The scales shined resplendently under the effect of golden dragon body. A golden fog rose from the scales, enveloping the chunk of heavy silver. This prompted him to circle around the mass of metal once more, striking its sides with the 2 hammers in his left hand the entire time. The moment Tang Wulin switched to a blood essence bridge, he sensed the heavy silver's life diminishing and his heart nearly leaped out of his throat. However, before scales had popped from his arm, his blood essence ignited and flowed into the heavy silver, feeding it the life force needed to stabilize. With blood essence pouring into it, the heavy silver gained a faint golden luster, a glint of crimson melding with its silver radiance as well. He's substituting soul power with blood essence? As the 3 elders looked at each other, dismay plagued their expressions. Yet, Tang Wulin's eyes glistened. I can do this. I can replace my soul power with blood essence to spirit refine. Rather than unaware of the heavy silver's scorching temperature, he had chosen not to summon his scales previously and let his hand burn. Blood essence seeped out of the gaps between his scales, the heavy silver gurgling as it drank it up. Peculiarly, as his hammering slowed, a portion of the heavy silver would separate and attach to his hammers upon contact. This scene baffled Tang Wulin himself. However, he paid it no mind. His hammers cheered with each strike against the heavy silver, and with his blood essence connection, the sensation was crystal clear. This was the blood sacrifice's basic effect. Since his hammers were of the highest quality and had undergone the blood sacrifice, and he was currently pouring his blood essence into the heavy silver, they could transform to the next level. The chunk of heavy silver grew smaller and Tang Wulin's right hand dropped lower with each strike. Meanwhile, his hammers gained a faint layer of gold. The cloud patterns underwent metamorphosis, now resembling a ferocious dragon bearing its fangs. The heavy silver absorbed his blood essence quicker than it did his soul power. Exhaustion penetrated into his bones. I have to hold on. I must. He was determined to create a miracle. A wonderful melody rang through the air, brought out by the tinkling of metal. At this moment, everyone was on the eve of witnessing a miracle. The silver glow weakened, the gold attaching itself to Tang Wulin's hammers. At last, an ounce of heavy silver remained, the rest had been absorbed by his hammers. Tang Wulin trembled, coughing up a mouthful of blood onto the metal's remnants. He shuffled a hammer into his hand and, holding it high above his head, struck down like lightning. Thunder boomed as golden light soared 1.5 meters into the air. Yet, the most baffling part was the dragon's roar rumbling past the pillar of light, as if a real dragon was soaring to the heavens. The golden light burst with an aura of life, peculiar sensation for everyone present. The heavy silver had gained life and was declaring its existence for all to hear. It was born. The 1,000 refinements with spirit, 10,000 refinements of life. Now, it was spirit refined. The golden light persisted for tens of seconds before gradually dying off. Tang Wulin fixed his eyes on his hammers. His hammers were completely colored a dull gold, the faint form of a golden dragon now on its surface. Instead of connecting to him through blood, his hammers had become extensions of his body. A flash of gold and the hammers melted into his hands. Indeed, they merged into his hands and not into his storage devices. To spirit refine was to connect one's life with the metal. Spirit refined metals could dissolve into the user's body. This was what made the product so precious. Anyone who wanted to use spirit refined metal had to be present during the forging, feeding the metal with their blood drip by drip. This was the only way to fuse with a spirit refined metal once it was completed. This was also the reason Wu Zhangkong's battle armor had instantly appeared once he had summoned it. Spirit refinement connected one's mind with the metals. The metal composing a suit of battle armor existed as an extension of one's body. As such, it was like another part of their martial soul, and all-powerful battle armors shared this trait. Although a one-word battle armor was formidable and lightweight, it couldn't hold a candle to a two-word battle armor, in which spirit-refined metal had melded with the user's body. That was true battle armor. Only then would the battle armor's amplification effect shine, amplifying the armor's might and existing as one part of the user's martial soul. Spirit refinement could evolve into soul refinement, but the 1,000 refinements could not evolve into spirit refinement. This was the unbridgeable gap between one-word and two-word battle armor. Possessing a two-word battle armor granted one a battle armor master's impressive might. The instant the hammers fused into his body, Tang Wulin lost all strength and fell backward, straight as a steel rod. Xie managed to catch him. Tang Wulin's complexion was snow-white, his breaths feeble. After exhausting both his soul power and blood essence, he fainted. Elder Cai and Shuoshe shared a glance, mouths parted. He succeeded? Shuoshe gaped. He succeeded. He actually succeeded at spirit refining. He's a 13-year-old 5th-rank blacksmith, a master blacksmith. Can he still be called a mere monster? Even Shrek Academy would scramble to recruit him. He's definitely a future divine blacksmith. In the entire Dolor continent, there was only one divine craftsman. Because of this, the most powerful battle armors in Shrek Academy were only 3-word. Only divine craftsmen could create 4-word battle armor. If Shrek Academy can raise him into a divine blacksmith, then all of our 3-word battle armor masters will be able to get an upgrade. The thought funneled all sorts of excitement through Shuoshe's veins, and he gulped. He rushed towards Xie and took Tang Wulin into his arms. Drained of energy, Tang Wulin was fast asleep, eyes shut tight. Xie flipped his gaze at Shuoshe. Grand teacher, are we finished with the exam now? Shuoshe nodded. His eyes shined bright as stars, and in the next instant, he encased Xie with a red light, delivering him to the side. The red aura around Shuoshe seemed almost corporeal, possessing a scarlet jade-like luster. The aura towered above everyone present, weighing down upon them. Then, it lifted Tang Wulin into the air. Shuoshe's eyes flashed crimson as the scarlet light around him unleashed a dragon's roar. The redness condensed, the roar becoming clearer, change proceeding over Tang Wulin. Golden line sipped over his body like makeshift veins, as if their birth was instigated by the scarlet light. Compared to before, however, these lines were much dimmer. Even so, they appeared to suck in the scarlet light, infusing it into his body. Whoa! Despite his surprise, Shuasha did not stop the crimson aura's transmission. It continued to pour into Tang Wulin's body, growing brighter and brighter. If not for the golden lines snaking their way through his body, Tang Wulin's form would have been indiscernible, enveloped in the thick scarlet aura. Elder Cai drew near to Guu slowly, the latter's fists balled and breath bated as she took in Tang Wulin's unusual circumstance. She didn't bat an eye to Elder Cai's approach. Don't think that you're done with tests now that you've passed. If you're not battle armor masters by the age of 20, you can forget about entering the inner court. Elder Cai snorted, then left. Guu turned a deaf ear to the old lady's words, gripped with tunnel vision toward Tang Wulin. Face was racked with worry and heart aching. Elder Li examined the three students, his gaze falling on Xu Xiaoyan for a hairbreadth of a second. Smiling, he exited the area, arms folded behind him. As Tang Wulin absorbed the scarlet light, the golden veins snaking their way across his skin grew more pronounced. In a blink of an eye, golden scales rippled into existence across his right arm, his blood essence growing vigorous. The light vanished from Shuasha's eyes and he directed Tang Wulin's body down to the floor, a finger withdrawing the scarlet aura with a curl. However, something out of the ordinary occurred, as the light prepared to leave Tang Wulin's body. The golden pattern on his skin issued out a dragon's roar, sucking back the scarlet light, not permitting it to leave. Shuasha was baffled out of his wits. He waved his hand, cutting off the aura's connection to Tang Wulin, leaving only a bit of the scarlet light for Tang Wulin's body to gobble up. After the majority of the scarlet light was absorbed, Tang Wulin became visible. The golden lines mapping out his body slurped up the aura's remnants. This? The three from Class 0 gaped as they took in the bizarre sight, but Xinyi knew exactly what was happening. Without a doubt, Tang Wulin was devouring Shuasha's soul power. Considering Shuasha's cultivation level, it was obvious his soul power would be extremely dense. Yet a kid with only 2 soul rings was gobbling it up. This meant Tang Wulin's martial soul restrained Shuasha's. How is this possible? Teacher's martial soul is the Scarlet Jade Dragon. It isn't some second-rate dragon, it's a supreme martial soul possessing a true dragon's bloodline. Shuasha thrust out his finger and poked Tang Wulin with a beam of red. A groan released from Tang Wulin's lips, and he slowly flicked his eyes open. Tang Wulin felt cozy, something he hadn't experienced for a long time. He was less feeble than before and his soul power was filled to the brim. Soon his blood essence would reach its normal level through the help of soul power circulation. He sat up, rubbing his head. His pallor gave Snow a run for its money, after losing so much blood. But in the end, he had succeeded. Grand Teacher. Tang Wulin rose and saluted. Shuasha wore a gentle expression. You four, follow me. He turned around and strode away. Guu ran to Tang Wulin's side in an effort to steady him. Are you okay? She asked softly. Tang Wulin nodded, a wry smile on his lips. Don't worry, I'm fine. She let out a breath of relief. Why did you do something so risky? Do you know how much danger you were in just now? If you had overdrafted any more of your energy, you might have sustained permanent injuries. Tang Wulin opted for a meek smile, not a word of argument leaving his mouth. Class 0's members followed Shuasha and Xinyi out of the room. Although Shuasha gave the appearance of walking slowly, they had to use their soul power to keep up with him. Where are we going? Tang Wulin pondered over spirit refining as he followed behind Shuasha. He had profited from a disaster this time. Somehow, he was able to pull through and succeed despite not yet having his 3rd soul ring. He never expected to triumph, but solely by coincidence, his hammers had also been made of heavy silver and were blood sacrificed, enabling them to absorb the metal he had forged. Tang Wulin studied his hand. He could feel the blood connection between him and the hammers. Normally, 1,000 refined metals could not evolve and become spirit refined. The circumstances this time, however, were too abnormal. In fact, a miracle had occurred, facilitated by his blood-sacrificed hammers and blood essence. Though he did not have the time to examine his hammers at the moment, he expected them to be incomparable with before. He had given them some of his life force, and in turn, they became an extension of his existence. It was a mystical sensation. He also felt his soul power strengthened and more harmonious with his blood essence after succeeding at spirit refining. In reality, his soul power was nowhere near the level necessary to spirit refine. His blood essence helped him make up for his lacking soul power. Because Tang Wulin's blood essence carried the energy of the Golden Dragon King, it could be considered an unconventional source of energy for him. He could use this energy to improve his combat ability through Golden Dragon Body, the soul skill from his Golden Soul Ring. So, though he only had 2 rings, if his blood essence soul ring was counted, he would have 3 rings in total. To succeed at spirit refining, Blacksmith needed conviction, and it was only because he possessed such firm conviction that he succeeded. The first spirit refining was the most important to a blacksmith. Subsequent attempts would proceed much more smoothly. Of course, Tang Wulin didn't dare attempt it again before he obtained his 3rd soul ring. The danger of having an insufficient cultivation base was terrifying. It was just like Gu said, he couldn't count on his luck. If he had overdrafted any more of his energy and the damage had been irrecoverable, failing the trial would be the least of his troubles. However, succeeding at spirit refining meant he had ascended to the level of a master craftsman. Tang Wulin overflowed with pride. He was a 13-year-old master craftsman, the youngest in history to accomplish spirit refining. He had set a heaven-defying record. He was certain no one but him could accomplish such a feat. The 4 chased after Shuosha through the campus until he finally slowed as someone came into view. It was a person they were all extremely familiar with. He kneeled with his back straight and proper, long blue hair cascading over his shoulders and making for a picturesque scene. Tang Wulin yelped in surprise and rushed over to his teacher's side. Teacher Wu. Indeed, it was their teacher, the white-robed man who carried a blue sword, cold as the frozen heavens, Wu Zhongkong. At the sound of Tang Wulin's voice, Wu Zhongkong raised his head. He watched as his 4 students sprinted toward him, Shenyi and the mountain-like Shuosha trailing behind. When his gaze fell on Shuosha, trembles gripped his form. His icy face thawed to reveal a tumult of emotions warring within him. Before his students even reached him, he turned to Shuosha and kowtowed, his head dropping to the ground. Once close to Wu Zhongkong's side, his 4 students stood behind him with thumping hearts as they witnessed this shocking scene. Tang Wulin kneeled down next to Wu Zhongkong, paying respects to Shuosha as well. He may not be aware of the circumstances surrounding his teacher and Shuosha, but he was smart enough to know what he should do. At his example, Xie Xie, Xu Xiaoyuan quickly got on their knees, leaving Gu standing behind Tang Wulin. Rather than kneel, she sat down beside Tang Wulin. Shuosha faltered mid-step. He no longer approached with the ferocity of a dragon, but his expression kept its stiffness. A few steps later and he was right before Wu Zhongkong. Stand up. Thank you, teacher. Wu Zhongkong met his gaze, surprise coloring his eyes. I'm not your teacher. I don't have a disciple as troublesome as you, Shuosha coldly said. Wu Zhongkong hung his head in silence, though something unexpected happened in the next instant. These grand disciples though, I'll recognize them. Wu Zhongkong's eyes popped wide and he kowtowed once more. Thank you, teacher. He understood his teacher better than anyone else. Shuosha was stubborn, strict, and uncompromising. Although he did not explicitly state he forgave Wu Zhongkong, he did not rule out the possibility either. This video will end here.